Good morning.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 307 RPG podcast. I'm Patrick.
I'm Nolan.
Nolan, this may possibly be the longest we've gone without seeing each other in the last couple years. How are you?
Not too bad. It was a interesting, a whole long week.
Yeah, it felt really strange. Like I kept wanting to get up and leave my office and come talk to you. And oh yeah, can't do that anymore.
That's not an option. How was the first week?
It was rough. There's a lot going on with the purchase of the facility and not knowing exactly where I'm going to fit into the whole thing. There was a whole lot of, well, here's your office, pat on the back, good luck. Um, there's a lot of prep going on for documents, stuff that the old company is scanning and sending to their headquarters, which in order to do that, I have to pull all the staples out because they're all employee documents. And I'm technically, aside from the administrator, the only one who can documents. So it really does fall upon me. 10 and a half, 12 hours is what it took to pull all the staples.
That sounds horrible.
Oh man, it was when I was leaving Friday evening. One of the speech language pathologists came up to me and she's like, "I heard you're building a mountain out of staples." I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "I want to see this." I'm like, "No, you really don't."
Will you, so this will be part of the transfer. Is everything going to be digital now, or do you have to go back and restaple everything?
I don't know.
Wait till the new
I
people get there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they do it because it could be that they're then going to take those documents and scan them and make them all digital. I don't know. Um, I know that that was the first week, and I know that next week apparently there's even more files in the basement.
Nice.
Yeah. So I will be down in the basement pulling out more files. Now, some of those files are just going to be boxed up and shipped off because they're old employee files. And as long as they are not currently employed there, we can just box them up and send them out. They don't need scanned. It's the current employees that have to be scanned. So yeah, there's just a lot of stuff going on there. And it is a nursing home, and unfortunately they were not spared from COVID, so they're dealing with the backlash of some of that and getting through all the things that happen with COVID in nursing homes, and just trying to, I'd imagine the administrator and the director of nursing are just absolutely slammed right
Yeah, and like you said, you've got a new company coming in as well, so add that stress to it and trying to learn it.
now.
Sounds
Right.
sounds pretty better than my week. So
How was your week?
it was quiet. We were busy, but it's so exciting when you don't have products. So
Right. But at least you were busy, you said.
yeah, helps the day go by. Except for yesterday, I had to work yesterday, and it was two people. That
Oh,
was
that
a
sucks.
YouTube rabbit hole kind of day.
Yeah, well, I always hated those days. However, it always seemed to be when you and I would find the most interesting stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, for good or bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those, oh my God, did you just see this? And both kind of go, oh God, what did he find?
Yep.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad that at least you're done for the week and you get to enjoy one day off. We did go out. I wanted to tell you that we did go out. We did check out the Dayton disc golf course. I need to get you up there. It is a fun little course, really short holes, so like tons and tons of potential for ace runs. Man, there's some technical shots. Like you throw off, and the tee pads are very small. You throw off on the tee pad, and it's like you are literally throwing over a slash pile. There's no trying to get through it. You just have to forehand shot, or not forehand shot, overhand shot over the slash pile because you're not going to get there otherwise. So really interesting shots. It does play down close to the river. I think it's far enough that you're safe.
We'll find a way.
I'm hoping not. We did take both of our friends named John joined us up there. It was my wife and I and John and John. It was nice to get John Cates out and teach him how to play. He had a blast. He like, you guys play again. Please call me. I would.
Awesome. That'll be great.
Yeah. And of course, it's always fun to play with John Thoreau. He does a great job. He ended up winning the day at +2. I think I was sitting at +3, and then kind of went there from there. There was one hole, it was hole 8. I threw, and it looked like a great shot coming off the tee pad, and then it just snaked over and just drilled a tree. Um, so I went to throw again, and I kind of pulled one of yours where the disc just held on a little too long, and it went off to the right, up over and onto the outhouse, and then finally slid off. And then when I went to throw around it, it bounced off the. I was like, "Wow, a par three that I just turned into a six."
How you get your money's worth. Play more golf than anybody else.
Yeah, I guess. I ended up that's what absolutely cost me. Last hole was really cool. I threw my wraith, and wraiths like to dance around as they do, and Thoreau is funny because he's like, "Wow, you completely snaked like you were threading a needle through many trees, and that dish just floated right around him, and it dropped like 10 feet behind the basket, but kind of up on a little hill. So when I went to putt down, it sailed right over the top. So
Uh,
it's a neat course, and I'm excited to get you and your wife out there to play because I think you're gonna have a good time.
Looking forward to it. It'll be nice.
Yeah, it'll be really nice. Just make sure we have some bright color discs, lots of heavy wooded areas that it will be, a struggle to.
Gotcha.
Yep. Anyway, we do have a topic of the week as we ramble on here. Our topic of the week is going to be on the Garland Supplement Visual Watch, which Onyx Path just released the combined edition of. We'll get to that in just a little bit. We do have some news that we want to talk about. We're going to kick off as we always do with D&D. But before we do that, actually, I have a question for you, Nolan. Um, we got a comment on one of our YouTube videos this week. It was the Altered Carbon character creation, where somebody made it a point to, and I do appreciate it, to say when that discussion began. And we've just kind of done this show the way we've done it the last couple years now, because it works for us. But I'm wondering, do you think, Nolan, that we should change how we do things? Should we not be a news and topic show? Should we just have a topic of the week? What are your thoughts on that?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, honestly,
Yeah, I'm just kind of dumping this on you. So
I suppose if you were going to do it for YouTube and hit the algorithm, probably just divide it in half. Make it 2 30-minute videos, and then you could have 7 RPG events, news we could find of the week, whatever, March 7th, and then take a little break, hit the pause. 7 RPG presents topic of the week, visual watch, get 2 videos out of one sitting.
that is a good possibility, and we just leave the show as it is on Twitch, where you get to catch the news as well as the topic of the week, and then we could break it up in YouTube. Maybe I'll start doing that. That could be a good way to do that.
Extra content without just dropping it in the middle, I guess.
That's right.
And then you could go find what you want to watch. You don't care about
Yeah,
the news, or you don't care about whatever we're talking about for the topic of the week. See what you missed.
we did just lose our Craig butt. I'm not sure why.
He doesn't like hanging out these days.
If I can bring it back in. If not, we'll rip the audio as we've been doing. I don't like doing that, but
Now
let's
recording.
see what happens here.
Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back, Craig. All right, so let's jump into the news because that is how we start things. So we're going to kick it off with D&D news. There's a little bit of stuff to talk about with D&D. The big thing is of course, Candlekeep is right around the corner. Nolan, do you plan on picking this one up on D&D Beyond?
I will, because I do.
Completionist?
Yeah. I'm curious to see through it. The only downside with it is one of those ones where I like to pick up, but I probably won't for like a year. So that way I
Sure.
don't know what's coming. That way when hopefully we get to play a few of them, whether it's a one shot or something like that. I'm excited to see 16th level adventure as far as that goes from what they're anticipating. And I didn't get the feeling that this was like a remodel of old campaigns. So, kind of take that out there of a conversion or that. So, yeah, I'm excited for it just from a standpoint what they're coming up with as far as mysteries. Hopefully it's
I agree. I think it's going to be a neat book. I'm not sure exactly when I'm going to pick it up. I think I will eventually, or maybe as we do content share on D&D Beyond, it might be one of those where you pick it up, you share it to me, and I run a story. Or you say, "Hey, I'm going to run it this week," and run the one shot or something like that. So, I think it's going to be a neat book. I am excited for it. I'm not as excited as I am for the Ravenloft book, which will be out in May, but I still think it's going to be a good.
Right. And I think we're getting to the point now where I've been saying it, and to do it is I would like to take all of the Forgotten Realms stuff and turn it into like an open world tabletop thing. Plot people down.
Yeah,
Hey, you happen to be. Where do you guys want to go? You want to go south? Well, guess what? We'll steal some Tomb of Annihilation stuff. You want to go north? We'll grab some Frostmanes. Around Waterdeep, this is what's going on. And then depending on the time and stuff like that, then people could just kind of go, and we're not necessarily playing a campaign. We're just playing Forgotten Realms, but using
sure.
all the source material. It happens to start when you get there, or you're on, halfway through, and guess what? There just a giant explosion in the market area of Waterdeep. You guys mind looking into it? or
Right.
or you're a suspect because you're fresh in town or whatever, and you're trying to clear your name. So just kind of grab a little bit, throw it in there, and see what happens.
That could be really cool. And you can even, as we've talked about before, use some of the Adventure League stuff as well to help supplement and fill in the gaps or transition to areas. Speaking of Adventure League, because we did have some Adventure League news, and I wanted to talk about this. Historically, when you created your character for Adventure League, it was a 4 rule book plus 1. Now it looks like those options are going to be based on where you're playing. Nolan, did you take a look at this at all?
I did. It depending on what it is. So it seems like right now the seasonal campaign is staying the same. So this will change after. The big thing that they're getting away from is, as it sits, the a lot of the player options, racial options, and that kind of stuff are all kind of in one book. So you're plus one if you wanted to be a certain kind of tiefling. You had to play, say, you want to play Feral Tiefling, it's Forgotten Realms book, that's your plus one. Now you're cutting out everything cool like a Hexblade. Can't play that anymore because it's out there. So people were having to sacrifice racial background, Galadrin style stuff that was in like Mordenkind's Tome of Foes, which that's really the only thing in there for you is if you want to play a summer, Eladrin. Well, guess what? You don't get access to Blade Singer now. You don't get access to. So I think it's a good thing. So being able to choose anything from the character building options as considered core, I think is great. And the big reason they saw that was because a lot of people just threw that rule out because it wasn't fun. Hey, my plus one book is Mordenkind's Tome of Foes. You're like, this is a 80-page book of monsters and demons and that kind of stuff, and 15 pages of elves. Why are you doing that? You're cutting yourself off Hexblade, or you're cutting yourself off of, a paladin subclass or ranger. What are you doing? Because we've seen Tasha's or Xanathar's was fantastic for players. I think it's a great choice. I also like the idea that you can. Uh, Part of that is if you're playing in Forgotten Realms, you can use Sword Course Adventures Guide because it's part of the realm that doesn't need to be plus one. That's just factual history as they've written it. So why would you hate that? I think it's good. It opens up character options depending on how what goes forward with it. Don't see it being a big deal, but there was some mention of master and historic campaigns. So I don't know if they're going to start running some stuff like, this is your league legal standard edition, and then maybe there's a modern, the legacy where you can just grab all books and it's a mega campaign, and everything's on the table. Bring it. It's a free for all versus this is specific. We're in Avernus. You can only have Avernus. Really limited. I don't know. I'll be curious to see where they go, but I think it's a great choice.
Yeah, very interesting Magic the Gathering spin on that. Yeah, I can see that. In movie news, we did see that actor Hugh Grant has signed on to portray the villain of the film. That's all we know about this. Hugh Grant is an extremely well-known actor, so it's going to be interesting. I should say well-known and very talented actors. I've never really thought of him as a villain, so I was kind of surprised to see that. But stretching his acting skills, I guess, if you will, and portraying a villain that could be really interesting. So I think that'll be good. I'm excited to hear this.
I'll be curious to see how it goes too, just because I don't. It gives me hope that maybe the villain isn't just super obvious. I like that kind of idea where it's like if you can reason with the bad guy, it makes him a better bad guy. Versus who knows, and maybe he'll just be a Voldemort type character. Here's a Sararak the Lich, and he's in makeup or whatever, and it's like, well, that's the dude. The cast looks really
Yeah.
good so far. I don't see any of them really. There's not a person on there that I'm really skeptical of as far as acting. Or who's the other person that you were telling me was in? Was it Bridgerton?
Oh yeah, I can't remember his name. Because
Regine
I
Page.
yes. That's
Um, who else? I saw. See, I got it pulled up. Michelle Rodriguez from Fast and the Furious. She's
Chris
yes,
Pine.
fine. Hugh Grant. Thought there was another, but it was kind of a caught me off guard thing. But anyway,
There was another woman, and I can't remember who it was.
Sophia Lillis, and Justice
That's it.
Smith.
Right. Yep. So we I mean we've got some good names coming into this. My only fear is I don't want it to be a situation where it's like, well, here's these, well-known actors, we're just shoving names into this film, because we've seen those where it's like a lot of well-known actors in a film and the film is just okay.
Right, and I think that's the I think that's the fear of who I think who's involved with writing it, stuff like that. I think right. I think they care about it, so it's not just a money grab. I don't feel like it's a money grab
Right.
at this point. So sometimes you look at it and you're just like, just took the name and ran with it. I think of, I don't know. There's always those kind of movies where you're like, well, that's it in
Sure.
title, but that's not it in spirit. So I, I don't know. I hope it's good. I hope
Yeah,
it's
I know. Fingers are crossed that they treat it well and that it's done well. There's a few of those that we have out there like right now, and I know the one I was thinking about this morning was the Lord of the Rings Magic the Gathering set. This is a like I've decided I'm going to get back into Magic, but I'm being very cautious about getting back into Magic. I'm not like just rushing out and buying a bunch of stuff. I did go and pick up a fat pack and a couple of packs from like the other last weekend, and it was fun to open packs. But by the same token, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to spend any more money buying packs. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to buy the cards I want now. There is no in-store play right now, so who knows what I'm going to do? Probably just wait.
maybe
They will,
play some arena, see what's out there,
right.
see what deck you like in the news.
Right. So the other thing, or what that brought me to, is I was thinking about it this morning. Is like, is Lord of the Rings going to be a? Because I mean, obviously, Lord of the Rings encompasses the three books. It's not just the first movie, because the first book, because the first book is the Fellowship. So I'm assuming by saying we're going to do a Lord of the Rings set, it's going to be a Lord of the Rings block, and we're going to get the Fellowship, the Two Towers, and the Return of the King sets. And if that's the case, I was trying to think about like different cards, and this is really going down a rabbit hole, but trying to think about different cards. And I was thinking, I was like, this is probably going to be one of those where I'm going to buy enough packs to actually complete a set.
I think it'll be interesting to see what the boxes are. I'm sure they'll do some sort of collector thing like that.
Right.
And again, I guess it depends on what it is. I mean, if they're just remakes of cards, or if it's their own cards where you need a set to play the game, or if it's just like Wolf summoning lightning from a cloud or something like that, and it's lightning bolt. I don't know because it's such a low magic world that
Sure. And I think I don't know. I was like I said, I was trying to think about the different things like in the movies, or sorry, the books. I've been watching the movie a lot lately. So in the books, when I think about like artifacts and magical items, in those three books, we don't have a whole lot of artifacts and magical items. Obviously, we have Aragorn's sword. We have Sting, and of course Glamdring, because Gandalf is using it, and even Gandalf's staff or Sauron's staff. So I was trying to think about the different artifacts that they could be, that they could include. I'd imagine we'll see a Palantir, we'll see the One Ring, we'll see some things like that. I don't know. I'm excited. I think it's going to be fun. But truly, when it comes to buying packs of Magic, that's kind of where I'm just setting some money aside to buy those.
I was going to say that I found a thing on Instagram and talking about Lord of the Rings and it was I found it the confusing part of Lord of the Rings start to make more sense when you realize it's actually just a transcribed D&D campaign, and it is several pages long, going with starts with a long low level adventure just getting out of the Shire and getting the ring to Rivendell. DM originally prepped a low level Hobbit campaign for their roommates who had never played before just to try and get them in for a one shot. DM lets their friend Steve play an OP wizard character from a previous campaign because Steve is real busy IRL and only found out he could play at the last minute, but everybody's into it because Steve's really cool. Steve is clearly a touring musician IRL because Gandalf is constantly dipping out of sessions for extremely weak in-game reasons. Steve also keeps writing original songs for the campaign world, which is why there's a goddamn new elf song on every other page. Word gets out that the fun campaign is going on. DM agrees to let Rachel play a badass ranger. She's so amped, she immediately writes 40 pages of backstory. DM reads it and thinks, this is honestly more compelling than what I planned. Is this the campaign now? Meanwhile, 3 of their close friends find out Rachel is joining and pressure the DM to let them play as well. DM caves immediately. DM responds to the overwhelming large 9-person party by completely shifting the tone of the campaign and giving a wild over-the-top plot hook. The only way to save the world is to take the specific rain to a specific volcano. Got it? Everyone's very psyched. Former player Kevin tries to stir up trouble because that's what character would do. Fucking Kevin. And so it just goes into this thing of like everything there. Kevin decides he wants to be evil. Goes into, well, you know what? Tries to take the ring, but he's got to leave. So they work up a death. Kevin dies. Kevin decides to come back, wants to play an evil character. You listen, Kevin, you can't play an evil character. You can be an NPC called Golem. Kevin's into it. He's going to be Golem. It's just,
That's awesome.
and it goes on and on and on for several pages talking about like Steve has to leave because he got a music gig. So they kill off Gandalf. They kill off Steve. Steve finds out the gig fell through, came back through. Can't find my character. I burned it. Okay, re-roll your character. He rolls an amazing 4 18s. He's now, Steve the White. And it's just like, jeez. So I was like,
That's really cool.
it was a lot of fun. I was like, okay, D&D, Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I'm ready to play it.
Let's do it. And we're going to talk about Lord of the Rings in just a little bit. So let's jump over to Onyx Path because I didn't see anything else for D&D. Did you?
Mm-mm.
Nope. So with 19 days left, the Indiegogo campaign for Victorian Age Mage is sitting at 198% funded. Congratulations. This is for Mage 20th anniversary edition, so it's awesome that there are enough fans out there of that level or that genre of mage that they're still willing to jump in. Keep in mind, this is a deluxe edition book, which we have said before. Onyx Path does a fantastic job with their deluxe edition book. So, but they are pricey. And the other thing to remember is when you buy these deluxe edition books in the Kickstarter, I've seen these deluxe edition books, go to like Indie Press Revolution where they're $200 to get the book. You're going to get it at $75. So this is like the best way to jump in and get this book at a quote reasonable price, reasonable being compared to $200. So I do have a link in the show notes if you want to check that one out. It does have, I think, 19 days left. Yeah. Looking through the Monday meeting notes, Rich Thomas did answer some questions regarding the Indiegogo campaign. And one of the things that I thought was important that we should tell our listeners right away is when you make a pledge to that campaign, it's not like Kickstarter. Indiegogo actually collects the money right away, whereas Kickstarter doesn't collect the money until that project has fully funded. So if you're one of those who's like, well, I can go ahead and book or back it because they're not going to collect for 30 days, not going to happen this time. It is going to be one of those you need to be able to pony up those funds immediately. Nolan, what are your thoughts on something like that?
I think it depends on where the book's at. I think with like the One Ring or something like that, where it's like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to collect it now. It's going to be out in November. We're just trying to see how many we're going to produce. I'm okay with that. If it's going to be one of those things and we're talking a half, you're still waiting on your stuff to show up. Maybe I got a little more issue with it, but my guess on it is it's not any writing. It's done. It's ready to go. They're just trying to figure out how many they're going to print, and so collecting a $75, thick book, sending it to print, I guess, getting it started as early as possible. Maybe they'll get stuff out.
Could be. I do know, like you said, maybe they'll get stuff out faster. Of course, COVID slowed everything down when it comes to Onyx Path Kickstarter. And I was recently looking at my Kickstarter projects unfulfilled, and I'm thinking I'm sitting at like 12 different projects that are, and a lot of it are still moving through the process. We recently talked about Mummy the Cursed, and that's one that I got in the backer PDF. Still haven't gotten the book, and it's well over a year. Cults of the Blood Gods is another one that has been well over a year, and that's been sitting at the printer now for going on a month. I know that they said that they got the PDF. They found some fixes and stuff that they had to do for the printer, and that was sent back. But again, this is one of those where you need to understand that you are trying to get this project to come to fruition. If you don't want to put the money out and then wait, you can always let the project get funded and pick it up POD through Drive Through RPG, because they do release that to people faster than the actual Kickstarter book, which can be frustrating. But so yeah, that campaign is live. It is, like I said, 19 days left. So again, check it out if that is something you're interested in. I was looking through the project updates section, and I noticed that there was a new project, and this is called the Apocalyptic Record for Werewolf 20th Edition. I was really stoked to see that, because this means that Onyx Path is still going to be, or at least presumably, still producing content for the World of Darkness. Now, say what you want about Onyx Path, I really don't care. They put out some fantastic quality and content for the World of Darkness. Everything I've seen from them has been very well done. They handle it with care, and why wouldn't they? Rich Thomas was part of White Wolf, so he knows the World of Darkness so well. It's been a part of his life for years, and so I'm excited that Onyx Path gets to stay, at least for now, within the World of Darkness. According to the summary, and I took this directly off the Onyx Path website, it says the Apocalyptic Record is one source book containing 5 overarching stories divided into chapters within each. These 5 stories tell different tales of the apocalypse, each defined by a different phase of the moon/werewolf auspice. Each contains a series of records, transcripts, journals, and relics written or recorded or voiced by werewolves, changing breeds, and even worm servants for Werewolf the Apocalypse. Um, Apparently, this project was delayed in 2020, but Paradox has given Onyx Path the green light to go forward. Rich does say in the Monday meeting notes that there may be more projects that were delayed that are forthcoming. So again, it just seems like Onyx Path is going to be staying in the World of Darkness. What are your thoughts on that?
When it talked about that, I thought first thing was kind of like a Beckett's. I'm hoping it's in that form. If it's 5 overarching stories told through 5 different perspectives of the apocalypse, and we see how we get there. It's another one of those ones where it's like they do a really good job of giving me the lore through story versus like I'm going through an encyclopedia. And if that's the way it's going to be, I think it's going to be a great, because I'm excited to see that side of it.
Right. And I know Werewolf isn't a game that we've really messed with. We did that one shot a couple years back where I think you played a werewolf and a couple other people did as well. And I know that there was some at least moderate interest in it, but it's just not one that we've really dove into. And of course, Werewolf 20, I think I have the PDF for it, but I've never really, I mean, I guess we did do some podcasts on it. So we did talk about some of the breeds and specifics, but yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's going to be one that I'll definitely be checking out. Not sure that because I'd imagine that's going to come to Kickstarter. Not sure that I'll back it, just because I'm being very particular about the stuff. So, and that's all I saw for Onyx Path. Um, Speaking of Kickstarters, though, we would be remiss not to talk about Free League Press, their One Ring Kickstarter that has come to a very monumentally successful end. Uh, The campaign ended with an astounding $2,001,783, which just holy crap. I was completely blown away. Free League does intend to have the PDF out to backers this summer, which is extremely exciting. And I'd imagine that's going to be one of those. As soon as we get it, you and I are both going to be tearing through it, and we'll do a couple of shows about it, because I know we're both looking forward to this one. And in the physical product, looks like they, according to the Kickstarter, that they're hoping to have fulfillment by fall of this year. Which again, it's one of those where it sounds like things are done. They're just updating rules and such to get this product out to in a second edition. One of the things that I thought was amazing about this whole process, and you had sent me a couple of messages regarding it, was they did Kickstarters up to, I think, about $1 million, or I'm sorry, not Kickstarters, but stretch goals up to about $1 million. And those were obviously very quickly reached. And so as we were nearing the end of the campaign, they announced a couple of other stretch goals. And it was funny because I was sitting at my computer when the email came through, and I was like, oh, what's this? And I looked on it, and I had already backed the campaign. So I was excited. And I'm like, what is this? oh, cool, a new stretch goal. And it was like, I think it was like a cloth map of Middle Earth that was an add-on feature that you could get. I was like, oh, that's cool. And I think like I don't know, it was probably like 10 minutes later, it was like, all right, well, that one was met. I was like, holy shit. So then they talked about the one that I thought was kind of interesting, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Nolan, is they're doing and it was, again, this is another one that was very quickly met, and it was the final stretch goal, which was a solo adventure. They're bringing in somebody who has won awards for writing solo adventures, and they're calling it the Strider Adventure, which I thought was awesome. What are your thoughts on solo adventures, Nolan?
You can take what you can get. I mean, how often have you gone without having a group to play or a pause between stuff? So I think I don't know. I think it's really cool. And I think it's also an opportunity to get more people in. Sometimes it's a huge commitment to get 3 to 5 people to play a game, or you've got, kid who wants to check it out, or something like that. And you can set them up for a game as well. So it's an opportunity to get it. And I also think that there are a lot of times where we've talked about session zeros and then session point fives where you play through the story. If you have those gaps in years or whatever, and you want to run a solo campaign or a one off and help guide somebody, one of your players doing something to help the character, I think more opportunities to get, you know, in the skin of that character is a great opportunity.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I'm a little unsure how it's going to work, so I'm kind of excited to see it. So I guess we'll see. I was very curious though about Free League's products, and I do remember there was a several months ago now. You and I were talking about a game that had come out called Vesson that I was kind of interested in at the time, but I just didn't jump in because it's like, well, I'm going to buy a book that I'm never going to use. Well, I realized I was looking at some of other Free League's other stuff, and they are the company that produced that game. I was like, okay, I'm really curious to see what this book is like. So I went ahead and purchased it. And I got it right here. And wow, we talk about the quality of Onyx Paths books. This is amazing. In fact, I grabbed it last night and I had my son Aiden sit down with it. And I didn't say anything about it. I was like, hey, grab that book. I want you to sit down and just take a look at it. And he grabbed it. And the first thing he goes is, wow, that cover feels really cool. It's got a nice matted cover. This feels more like a deluxe edition. So he started flipping through it. He's like, Dad, this artwork is incredible. And the pages, it's like a heavier not cardstock, just a heavier stock paper. So you feel like, I've seen some books where it's like this high matte glossy, or not, I'm sorry, not matte, high glossy page that it just kind of feels like almost like magazine type page, but not quite as thin.
Hmm.
Well, this is like that heavier duty paper. The the artwork is incredible. The layout was very well done. I haven't read through it, so I don't know if it's like riddled with mistakes. I'm sincerely doubting it just because of the quality that was paid to this book. Um, this is really cool, and it gives me high hope. Again, I did not do the deluxe edition of the One Ring, but it does give me hope that even the basic edition is just going to be amazing. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be cool. I do have to ask because I asked you earlier this week and you never answered me. Did you end up backing it?
I didn't. Just from that standpoint of I had a hard time. Like if I was going to do it, I was just going to do the deluxe edition. You know what? Something I may never use or not want to use or whatever. So, I mean, I think the moment that it says, "Hey, we're playing it," I'll grab 2 books for the table type situation. I mean, that's gonna be one of those things because the more people we can get to actually play this game. And again,
Me
it
too.
it looks really cool. The art looks really cool, and just along the lines of I've got a ton of Lord of the Rings books that I never open that are just for show every now and then would look good. Just hanging out with.
Right. Yep. I'm excited about the book. I really am. I am excited because I was able to buy in at high enough level that I'm going to get the physical copy of the starter set. I'm going to get the physical copy of the book, and of course everything in PDF format as well as some of the extra stretch goals, the dice, and stuff like that. So I am excited about the whole project. And now having put hands on Vesson and feeling the quality of the book that they put out and the care that they take with their books, I'm really excited to see what. And again, I know, like you, I have stuff up here in my office that's all Lord of the Rings stuff that is stuff that I probably will never mess with. Like I bought the digital version of the extended series so I can leave my other ones alone and stop playing them. Um, just ridiculous because I've spent a lot of money on this stuff. But so yeah, I this is one that because I know your love for it and my love for it, it's going to be one of those where I'm like, okay, we're playing this. Who are we putting in the game? Who
Well,
are we going to invite to play?
and like you said, with the solo edition, with the Shredder edition, and depending on how the game is, it might be one of those things. What do you want to play? I mean, I already know that I'm going to play a Dunedain. I mean, that's just, that's where my heart is. So it's like, okay, so and so can't make it this week. What's your ranger doing? And away you go.
Right.
We'll grab somebody else. They could be a part of a one shot. And you could cycle people in and out. It takes place over 60 years. It's like time to cycle. So I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. I'll be playing. I am too. Over at Modiphius announced this past week the pre-order for the new 2D20 Octane Cthulhu will go live Tuesday, March 9th. This is, like I said, just a few days away. The release does say that they will be firming up the official launch day of the product next week, so do keep that in mind. If this is just the pre-order. Modiphius did release a quick start guide for Octane Cthulhu 2D20 last week. I do have another link in the show notes. I know we did that last week, but I went ahead and did it this week too. So if you are a fan of Octane Cthulhu, remember that is the World War II era of Call of Cthulhu. There is a way for you to check it out by downloading the free quick start edition. So it might be one of those that if you're just curious, you can download it, play it with a couple of friends, see if you like it, and then if so, you can go ahead and jump on the.
I was looking through Drive Through RPG, had a note on there, saw that there was an adventure for Dishonored, and it was Dishonored PDF adventure number 1, The Assassins 4. Find yourself entangled in the plot of murder and politics with The Assassins 4. This 15-page adventure by Allison Saib has your group aiding the Bottle Street gang and involving themselves in an assassination plot. And when I was looking at it, I was like, okay, 15 pages. It was $5. And I saw Modiphius next to it, and I was like, oh, okay. So I decided to click on their stuff just to see. And I know that we talked about them working with Skyrim. I had not realized that they were all Cinemax. I guess that makes sense because Dishonored. And we were talking about Fallout is under that label. They have some games there. So I think we've talked about it a few times where it's like playing a video game and then moving to the world that you can understand the world. Lord of the Rings style, we understand the world. I'm excited for. I don't know. I got really excited for the idea of maybe checking out the Elder Scrolls stuff as it comes out. Looks like they got a few quests out there. Some of them are free. Some of the stuff they Drive Through RPG is like $5. I was really impressed with their pricing as far as that stuff goes. We've talked a lot about $19 for a campaign book. Their mutant stuff looks like it's $15 to $25. Their Star Trek stuff about $15. Looks like the Fallout stuff is $13, $14. I mean, it's right in that price point where I'm okay checking it out. And I guess I never really realized that, I guess, with affordability. I don't know. I'm guessing normal books because of cost, but I'm with D&D stuff, it's still $30 for the pricing was cool. And I don't know. I know Skyrim's highly popular. I'm surprised that hasn't gotten more traction, but again, maybe. Got Conan, they got Cult. Not necessarily flying under the radar, but there's some good stories that they're putting.
We've talked quite a bit about Modiphius and some of the stuff that they've done, and I know I've been very critical of Modiphius or the Master, and it could just be that the team that they put in charge of that, and maybe they were handicapped by Paradox. I don't know. I don't know the whole story behind it. I know that it wasn't very well done. That being said, I have other Modiphius books that I was absolutely thrilled with. Like I have the Star Trek core rule book, and it's a great book. I love looking through it, especially as a Star Trek fan. It hits all my feels, and it's fun to look through the book. It's one of those that I think I even have a couple other source books as well as the quick start for Star Trek Adventures. It's one of those that I'm like, I really want to play this game because it looks like it's been very well done. I have the PDF of Conan. Um, and it's one of those, we've talked a little bit about Conan on the show, and it's like, wow, this is a really cool book. They've got some really neat products. And like you said, I think it kind of flies under the radar, but a lot of stuff flies on the radar when you have the big, huge, omnipresent Dungeons and Dragons that sits there. Whether you're a fan of D&D or not, it is the most well-known. I'm not going to say it's the most popular, but it is the most well-known role-playing game. and it is the most massively produced. I mean, Wizards of the Coast is a big company. They're backed by Hasbro, right? So they're big, and they're going to put out stuff. You know, they can say they're like Apple. They can say, "You want our product? You're going to pay for it." And like you talk about D&D Beyond, they created their own platform where they can go and sell their PDFs. And I'd imagine, maybe eventually they're going to start pulling some of the stuff like from the DMs Guild, like all the Adventure League stuff. So you have to go to D&D Beyond to buy it, because it's their property. They want to collect all the funds for it. So I like the fact that there's other companies like I bought the core rulebook for Star Trek. It was a $50 book. I've bought supplemental stuff and it's like $25, $29 for the actual book. And I always get a PDF with it, and I don't have to pay extra to get that PDF. It comes with when I buy the hardcover book. It's not as now. I do want to say, like you talked about D&D Beyond and the PDFs for that, and you spent $30. Those PDFs are completely different than buying a PDF through DriveThru RPG. Those are broken out, and sometimes, like I've sat here as we're running Icewind Dale, and I'm flipping through the book trying to read it, and there's times where I get confused reading the book. I'll go to the PDF and look at that because it's set up differently, and I like the flow on D&D. So I do think there's some advantages to it. I don't like paying $30 for a digital book. I'd rather spend, like you said, the 19 to $20 or the $30 for a physical book and then get a digital book on top of it.
Yeah, it would be nice to have a redeeming or a redemption thing, but I know that ZeniMax is in the process of Microsoft. I know there's talk about Elder Scrolls going through it, and if it's going to be PlayStation anymore, since it. So I'm, you get somebody backing like that. Hopefully, will above keep people producing their product in high quality. Yeah, I just it caught me off guard, and then just the list of them. John Carter of Mars cracked me up, but the books were fantastic. So
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I like the idea of video games coming out more and more. Just sometimes
Yeah.
nothing sadder than finishing, Lord of the Rings, and right. So
Yeah, exactly.
and
And
then
it's kind of cool to say, like, if you're a big fan of Skyrim and you've chat with your friends about Skyrim all the time because you're all big nerds of Skyrim, and it's fun to say, hey, you know what? We have a Skyrim role playing game. We don't have to be bound by the constructs of within the digital world. Let's go do our own thing where we can, instead of saying you can make decision A and B, well, there's now C, D, E, F, and G.
yep. And I think bringing it in again, we've talked about World of Warcraft or whatever. If you were going to do one, and we're all starting in Goldshire, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to go into the effort. I don't have to build the world at this point. We've all been there. We've all ran through Goldshire. We know who Hogger is, right? But then
Right.
then you can really focus on, okay, I don't have to develop the world. I can just work on characters, or I can work on. I don't even have to come up with names at this point, right? You can just log into the game and run through Goldshire. Be like, yeah, here's the innkeeper. Here's Prancing Pony. Yeah, that's the name of the bar. It's like we've been there. We've seen it. Okay, well, now what's happening? Now we can. We don't have to take that extra energy live in it.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of cool. And I think sometimes Modiphius flies under our radar just because they don't put out stuff as rapidly as what we get from D&D or even from Onyx Path. Onyx Path has a lot of projects that they're working on, and they're very vocal about those projects. I am subscribed to the Modiphius newsletter, so I do get updates, and I do try to include those in the show notes as that stuff comes out. And it's also games that typically we don't play. We know the titles, like Star Trek, like Skyrim, like Fallout. And I know you've played Skyrim and Fallout. It's not games that I've played mostly because I can't. I get nauseous when I play them. Um, so it is, I think, it warrants keeping an eye on and discussing, and possibly even doing some deep dives into some of their games because it's just not something we've done before.
Yep.
So, all right. So that is the news for this week.